The sun rose over the South Dakota plains, stretching long fingers of light across the patchwork fields of soy and corn. The air was crisp, charged with anticipation as trucks, trailers, and families descended on the county fairgrounds. It was the last day of the fair, the day of the livestock competitions, and in stall number 47 stood a cow that no one believed would be there. Her name was Daisy, and she was a mottled brown and white Holstein with a lazy left eye and a tail that had a rebellious curl to it. She didn't look like much, certainly not like a winner, but if cows could tell stories, Daisy's would have been the kind legends were made of. A rough start. Daisy was born on a cold April morning at the Larson farm, a small spread just outside of Aberdeen. The Larsons were third-generation farmers, and every calf mattered. But from the start, Daisy was trouble. She was undersized and slow to stand, and when she did, her legs wobbled like a newborn fawn's. Her mother refused to nurse her, leaving her to bleat helplessly until 12-year-old Emma Larson wrapped her in a blanket and carried her into the barn's warmth. "She's not gonna make it, honey," said Roy Larson, scratching his stubble chin. "Don't get too attached." But Emma was already attached. She named the calf Daisy because she hoped that, like the flowers, she would grow strong in the sunlight. Every morning before school and every evening after, Emma would mix formula and feed Daisy from a bottle. She'd sing softly while the calf's rough tongue lapped up every last drop. Days turned into weeks, and Daisy grew, but she didn't grow quite right. Her legs were still knobby, and she was skinnier than the other calves. When she tried to run, she stumbled more often than not. The other calves nudged her away at feeding time, and she never quite fit in. The dreamer's plan. Emma didn't care. She saw something in Daisy that no one else could. "You're special," she would whisper, brushing Daisy's coat until it shined. "You're just waiting to show the world." When the county fair posters went up at the general store, Emma's heart leapt. She'd never entered the livestock competition before, but this year felt different. She ran home, clutching the flyer in her hands, eyes wide with excitement. "I want to take Daisy to the fair," she declared at dinner, her voice unwavering. Roy choked on his mashed potatoes. "That old heifer," he said, laughing, "she's a runt to the litter." "She's not a runt. She's just unique," Emma countered. "She's got spirit." Roy's laughter softened into a sigh. There's not a judge in the county who will give her a second look. She ain't like the other cows." Emma's eyes narrowed. Exactly. She spent the next 2 months getting Daisy ready. She brushed her coat daily, added supplements to her feed, and even made a makeshift obstacle course to improve her balance. The calf that once stumbled across the pasture now pranced through the fields, following Emma like a loyal puppy. Fair day. The morning of the fair dawned bright and cool. Emma braided a ribbon into Daisy's tail and watched her until her coat gleamed. When they arrived, heads turned. Some folks pointed, others snickered, but Emma held her head high. She led Daisy to stall 47 and hung a homemade sign that read, "Daisy, the little cow that could." It was decorated with glitter and paper flowers. The neighboring stalls housed impressive beasts, massive muscular creatures with glossy coats and perfectly symmetrical markings. Daisy looked like a twig among oaks. "She's never gonna win," muttered one boy leaning on the rails of his stall. His bull was twice Daisy's size, a behemoth named Thunder. Judges go for size and symmetry. That's how it's always been. Emma squared her shoulders. Maybe it's time things changed. The competition. As the judging began, Daisy grew restless. She stamped her hooves and swished her tail, her lazy eye wandering to the commotion around her. Emma stroked her neck. "It's okay, girl, just be yourself." One by one, the cows were led into the ring. Thunder strutted like he owned the place, his muscles rippling under the sun. The judges took notes, murmuring their approval. When it was Daisy's turn, the murmurs were less kind. "Skinny little thing, ain't she?" one judge whispered. "Looks like she'd blow away in a strong breeze," another chuckled. But then Daisy did something no one expected. Halfway through her walk, she stopped and looked out at the crowd. Her lazy eyes seemed to focus, and for a moment, she stood perfectly still, her head held high. Then, without warning, she let out the loudest, most exuberant moo anyone had ever heard. It echoed across the fairgrounds, full of life and defiance. The crowd burst into laughter, then applause. Emma's cheeks flushed with pride. "That's my girl," she whispered. A change of heart. The judges took longer than usual to deliberate. When they finally emerged, the head judge cleared his throat. "We've seen a lot of fine livestock today," he began, "but we've also seen something more, a display of heart, spirit, and perseverance." He paused, looking directly at Emma and Daisy. "First place goes to Daisy, the little cow that could." The crowd erupted, and Emma's jaw dropped. She hugged Daisy's neck, tears streaming down her face. "We did it, girl, we did it." The aftermath. Back at the farm, Roy stood by the barn, arms crossed, shaking his head in disbelief as Emma led Daisy out of the trailer. The blue ribbon fluttered proudly from her collar. "Well, I'll be," he muttered. "Never thought I'd see the day." Emma grinned, her face glowing. "Told you she was special." Roy knelt beside Daisy, scratching behind her ears. The cow leaned into his hand, her lazy eye drifting contentedly. "Guess you showed us all," he said softly. "You ain't just any cow, you're one in a million." Daisy nuzzled him, her tail flicking with that rebellious curl. She might have been born small and awkward, but in that moment she was larger than life. The legend lives on. The story of Daisy spread throughout the country. People came from miles around to see the little cow that could. Some claimed she brought good luck. Others swore they saw a twinkle in her lazy eye. And every year at the fair, Emma and Daisy were there, still underdogs, still defying expectations, and still reminding everyone that sometimes the greatest champions are the ones who don't look like winners at all. Because in the end, it wasn't just about size or symmetry, it was about heart, spirit, and the belief that even the smallest among us can reach the biggest dreams. Thanks for joining us for Fireside Stories. Remember before you leave to like and subscribe, and we'll see you the next time that we all gather around the fire.